Just get the camera right. There we go.
So here I am in the Atlantic City Aquarium, and if you look behind me, you should be able to see some sea creatures. They got fish swimming around in here. It's kind of nice. It's got good ambiance. This aquarium is actually entirely submerged under the Atlantic Ocean's waters. Why are we here? Well, I'm on a business trip. Mr. House has contracted NV Ranger & Co. to do an inspection of the oceans. What's going on down below? Something. There's a connective tissue between them, but it's not always what it looks like. You see, if we head up north a bit from Atlantic City to the Commonwealth near Boston, we can find these beautiful animals. Dead all over the place, bloated and beached, sometimes gutted. They're lying around all over the place up and down the shoreline, but you'll never hear their name. No one will talk about them. No one seems to hunt them for food or other resources either. Blubber? It's like they're forsaken or something, cursed, an open secret that shouldn't be discussed. There must be some out in these expansive waters, though, right? Right? Why are they all dead here on the shoreline anyway? Was it disease, toxic chemicals in the water, or maybe something else, something bigger, hunting them for sport? They're not alone, though. Over here, near the Revere Beach Station, just under the waves, we can find mighty whale skeletons, clearly from a different species than our mutant dolphins. These guys have no meat left on them, no flesh. As strange and otherworldly as these remains might appear with these tusk-like looking structures, this looks very similar to a humpback whale skeleton, and those aren't tusks. To take that theory a step further, one of the most common whales to see near Boston is your mom. Just kidding. It's the great humpback whale. Don't report me to HR. Don't do it. Brenda hates me. We have all these remains washing up to the shallows. You have your toes in the sand with death at your feet. What's out there, though? In the ocean. Before that, let's take a step back for a moment and look at this map of the Commonwealth. It's one that emphasizes the Atlantic Ocean's role in the given area. That's an enormous chunk of the map dedicated to the water, so there must be something to it. There must be more out there. Foreshadowing. There's no way they just left us with Mirelurks who appear to spend more time on land than in the water anyway. Surely, it can't be the case. Surely. So I did some poking around and I overheard some caravan guards talking. I may or may not have recorded their conversation. Okay, I recorded it. Listen.
So one day, my grandpappy was egging. It was a foul day. Fog so thick you couldn't see your hand in front of your face. He was stumbling along and then he heard a tremendous clamoring. From the ocean. Like nothing he'd ever heard before or since. He stood still for a long time. The fog cleared for a brief moment, and that's when he saw the outline of the great behemoth. Massive. Bigger than anything you or I will ever see. Old Peg. A giant blue ghoul whale.
Right there at the end, you hear her mention a blue ghoul whale, which I'm assuming means a blue whale that happens to be ghoulified, but could also mean another variety of whale that just so happens to be the color blue, or a very obese ghoul. Blue whales are not so common to the Boston area, not nearly as common as humpback whales or dolphins, but maybe nuclear devastation, environmental collapse, and ghoulification changed this one's behavior. We'll look around for it, but perhaps it swam off to other seas for now, or maybe that lady's grandpappy was hitting the jet with Mama Murphy too much. The story doesn't end there, though. Far from it. It's time we crack open the depths of these waters to take a peek, but first, we'll start on the surface. Trying to understand these oceans is like trying to tie your shoes. It's hard sometimes. Luckily, today's video is sponsored by Southern New Hampshire University. I actually went to this school. I went here and got my bachelor's degree in computer science. Still can't tie my shoes. That's not their fault, though. SNHU is one of the largest accredited universities in the country with over 200 degree programs, many online, and everything is built around flexibility. You have no set class times. You work when you can, where you can. You can also transfer up to 90 credits, whether they're academic, military, or experiential. That's what I did. No one in my family had been to college before me. I really didn't know what I was getting into, and I was not focused at all in high school, to be honest. I started trying out different subjects at community college while I was working in the restaurant industry, and SNHU allowed me to transfer my community college credits over, keep working my day job, and get my degree on my own time. Classes are incredibly flexible. I didn't have to show up at specific times. Like I said, I just had to get the work done. And that work is built around helping you develop relevant job skills. Every day I would walk nearly a mile into the airport from parking, go through TSA, take a tram before starting a long shift, and the whole time I was thinking, I need to get out of this eventually. I was grateful for that job, don't get me wrong, but I knew there was more to life. SNHU was that path, and despite the fact that I'm doing YouTube now, I still feel the structure and discipline I gained from my time there, not to mention the relevant skills. It was important to me not to get in the kind of enormous debt I saw a lot of my peers getting into at the time going to other schools, so with SNHU taking my community college credits, allowing me the time to keep working, and being more affordable, it's one of the best decisions I made at that point in my life. I'm happy to work with SNHU as a sponsor because it's something that actually helped me. You're not stuck, you can make adjustments and get your education. If you've been thinking about going back to school or starting something new, definitely check them out. Use my link in the pinned comment or description at snhu.edu/nvranger to explore over 200 degree programs and get started. Thanks to SNHU for sponsoring this video. Out in the ocean, at times very far from the shores, there are a bunch of platforms. Makeshift little homes, sometimes even communities with farming or gardening out here. These spots look lived in, with the same kind of structures on them that you would find landside in the various settlements, but they're way out here making use of derelict barges or boats for their foundation. I wandered around hoping to talk to some folk out here. Surely people living on the sea would have a better idea of the wildlife situation and the happenings of the sea, so I looked, and I swam. Everyone seems to be gone. There's no one out here. This is starting to get weird. These were clearly post-war, like a community of seafaring folk who can drift about in isolation and drift together for trade and gatherings. It was a whole thing going on out here. You can even see that some of these boats and barges are being put to use to pull old scrap out of the ocean, like this one that's hauling in a sunken plane really far away from the airport. In fairness, this could have been from the pre-war where the plane crashed into the water and was being pulled out of the ocean when the bombs fell. That's possible. We even have some of these dolphin creatures on this boat, dead. How did they get up on the boat and why are they dead here of all places? A trail of clues. Hopefully. Not far from that, we can find this barge with a proper little village going on, canopies, multiple beds, and crops growing out of these tire plots. So this time we do have signs of life. Unfortunately, they're in the form of death. Coffins all over with skeletons in them. Some are even in the water, like other people were setting them out to go float off into the sea, but they're just frozen here. We also have a couple of skeletons not in coffins on this platform. Check out the remains of this woman here. Despite looking like she died long ago, the candles around her are still emitting light without flames. This is an odd scene, to say the least. Perhaps these people came out here to survive the initial aftermath of the Great War and slowly died to radiation sickness. Those who were still alive were in the process of putting the dead to rest out at sea, but then they too collapsed in the process. I guess they brought the coffins with them or crafted them out here on the boat. I don't know, it doesn't really add up too cleanly. But maybe not. Maybe this is all a lot more recent than just following the Great War. Maybe all of these ocean platform homes and settlements were a part of a community that had been ravaged by something more recent. The same thing that killed all of these dolphins. Although that doesn't piece together cleanly either because these dolphins haven't been reduced to their skeletons. On this same barge, we'll call it the coffin barge, you can see at the back end here, they have this system. On the right side, there's a pipe going into the water that connects to that central machine, and then another pipe comes out of the top and is hanging over that car. So if you're wondering how would a community all the way out in the middle of a salty, toxic ocean get their water, here you go. And then we have Spectacle Island, which was perhaps some sort of central hub for this ocean-faring community. There's almost something really amazing out here, but instead I'm like an archaeologist sifting through a lost society, wondering what was or what could have been. There is a place with people left living like this. It's those in the kingdom of Libertalia. Let me tell you about these geniuses. They have an interesting story. So they used to be Minutemen, and then they moved to a place without a food source, didn't try and solve that issue, thought for a second, hey, wait a minute, we're starving, and then they became raiders. Maybe they didn't realize there are no fish left in the water. They're all dead, washed ashore, like those dolphin things. We do still have all of these gulls out here, these birds. You think they would have picked the bodies clean of these dolphins. We're really just cracking this strange ocean mystery open. We have many buoys out in these waters. Each has a bell on it. You can ring the bells. You can ring them. Let's see what happens when you ring them. Look at that, surprise, surprise. Nothing happens when you ring them, except that they ring, of course. But why? Why can we ring them? What is the purpose of allowing us to ring these random obscure objects out where most people are never going to go? Hopefully I'm not triggering something that's gonna bite me in the ass later. Do you notice a trend? Dead sea creatures beached, mysterious bones of whales, ocean-based communities, stories of giant ghoul beasts, buoy bells to ring, but nothing calls back. We keep getting told, subtly, that there's something out here, something worth looking into, something specific to this part of the Commonwealth. But there isn't. So far, it doesn't seem like there's anything to do out here but loot the sea floor like the sad bottom feeders we are. An enormous stretch of the map with all of these signs of purpose in life, but nothing to show for it. The world begins an idea, but refuses to finish the thought. Come with me, I have to show you something. Here we are at the Nahant Oceanological Society. If we come up to the roof, you can see this tank with a pipe coming out of it. We're gonna follow that pipe. Yeah, we are. It disappears right into the ground, right at the water's edge. But if we follow that direction, we can see it picks back up and begins to go deeper into the water. More importantly, notice there are lights on the side of it with a black wire running between them. There's a trail for us to follow. How exciting. I know some of you forgot your goggles, so to make things clearer for you, I've asked the Envy Ranger & Co. plumbing team to drain the ocean for a bit. They're used to dealing with far worse, believe me. I'm looking at you, John. So I followed the pipe a bit further, and it disappeared, but still going in that general direction, it picked back up again and then disappeared again, and then picked back up again. So we have something to follow. Eventually, it brings us to a split. Choices. How very RPG of this pipe. We're playing a role piping game. So we're gonna follow it to the right first. It brings us to this collapsed boat. What's odd is this last light on the pipe here is different from all of the rest we've been following, and the wire splits off into the ground here away from the pipe. Saying pipe a lot. Not a big deal because the pipe is destroyed and doesn't pick back up. This is the end of this trail, so we'll just head back to the split. Now we're going much deeper into the depths of the ocean. As we go through, we're passing by boat wreckage, cargo, and all sorts of other waste. This pipeline is taking us through a scene, an area that was meant to be seen. At least it looks like it. The lights and wire continue guiding us to another split. This time, we have to choose left or right. To the left, the pipe sinks into the ocean floor once again and disappears, having guided us to a rusty, waste-filled trench that borders the edge of the map. There's nothing for us this way. Back to the right, though, our main trail continues, but only just briefly. It sinks into the ground, but before vanishing, it crosses over a wider pipe, and suddenly, our lights and connecting wire continue along that one. Side note, though, in the direction of the original slimmer pipe, just over this ridge, we can actually find one of those dolphin creatures on the seafloor with its stomach ripped open. Dead. Again. Back to our trail though, we'll find this tank-like structure down here under the ocean. A bunch of them actually in this grouping. Our wire and lights follow along them for a time and then nothing. There's nothing to do, nothing particularly interesting to cap off our journey. It just ends. I'm pissed. It goes right into this concrete structure. The pipe continues into the earth, but there's no trail for us to pick back up on. The strange bit is, this seems like something we were meant to follow at one point, but this isn't the only thing down here. There are a bunch of pipelines up and down the coast guiding you to largely nowhere. This is a subtle, well, not so subtle because it's enormous, but subtle because it's hidden under the murky waters. All the pipes down here, many of them have this spillage, a rusty waste coming out of them, and they're often stemming from one of the coastal factories. The pre-war companies were making a mess of the coastal waters and destroying the ecosystem. It doesn't stop there though. The Nahant Oceanological Society discovered some of the impact this was having on the wildlife. Notably, fish were becoming intoxicated, toxic, and the crustaceans were mutating. Again, before the war, as a result of radioactive waste. They tried to take the information to Galaxy News like, hey, the crabs are getting kind of big. And Galaxy News was like, hey, everyone, it's going to be a great crabbing season. The scientists were like, no, you don't understand. They just ate Trevor. And then the police were like, please don't talk to us. We also have a bunch of what looks like these naturally formed arch structures just asking you to swim through them. You can do that once we fill the ocean back up. You have tons of sunken ships, boats, planes, cars, trenches, scrap, loot, sunken treasures of sorts. Even attached to some of those ocean platforms we were talking about are these lines that run down to the seafloor attached to another sunken boat or object. The point of this being that elements above water are connected to what's below. There's sort of this guiding flow for you to follow below the murky water. Because believe me, you need these landmarks. Or ocean marks. It all feels very intentional, yet all very incomplete. A trail of breadcrumbs to nothing and nowhere. One of the strangest things down here can be seen out in the depths, beyond our reach. Look there. It almost looks like a whale? Could it be? Of course not. It's a ship, an enormous, incomplete, sunken ship far beyond our reach. We can't even get close to it. It does give way to the idea of more out there, though. There is a beast in these waters I haven't mentioned yet, but not one of flesh and bone, rather one of steel. It's this monstrosity, the
Yangtze,
a Chinese stealth submarine in the Boston Harbor loaded to the gills with nuclear weaponry. This is where all of this kind of starts to tie together. This submarine and its captain are connected to one of the only quests involving the ocean and sea exploration, but their story was cut short. The quest is called Here There Be Monsters, which is a reference to the phrase Here Be Dragons. The idea behind this is a reference to those old school maps where they might draw imagery of dragons and other beasts, alluding to the idea of unexplored and dangerous territory. In a world without satellites or scientific experts, the imagination can easily run wild with the unknown, and if people know that deaths were occurring out here, they could drum up their own ideas about what was causing it. That is exactly what the ocean was meant to be. You could imagine a map like this for the Commonwealth, with the ocean and the glowing sea having drawings of sea creatures and irradiated titans. All of this gets close to bringing us together to a missed theme of the Commonwealth. This area had the potential to be displayed as a post-apocalyptic, medieval-like setting. Think about what I just mentioned for a second with the Here Be Dragons reference, then consider how the vast majority of settlements are small farming locations. The people there would be the serfs of a feudal hierarchy, and the wealthy and royal might live in places like Diamond City. This would have given the Commonwealth a very strong theme and allowed for a creative parallel between the post-apocalypse and the past, displaying how society has regressed but remains stacked on top of a lost retro future. That very Fallout-esque thing of history not repeating but rhyming. Yet those connections stop short of ever realizing that vision, just like the ocean. Anyway, I'll end that trail of thought there for now. Back to the submarine. To keep this brief, at first, you simply help the Ghoul captain deal with the damaged submarine and his feral crew, but this wasn't always how things were meant to end. Originally, the captain was going to ride his vessel into the sea before abruptly wrecking in to a secret underwater vault, Vault 120. We can actually see some level of reference to the existence of this vault in this recently released vault map. Just behind the writing here, you can see a vault marker, just barely, out in the ocean. An underwater vault might make you think of a certain setting, a society that escaped beneath the seas and rhymes with Bapshire. And like most vaults, this one would have an overseer, but this time the overseer would be a giant squid. What the fuck? Check out this little artifact here. We can see one of those dolphins swimming around, alive. If you want more info on that cut content, the wiki has an extensive page or two on it, or if you don't want to read, you can go check out Triangle City's video. He has a great breakdown of it. Now we're going to hit the seas again and head even further north to Bar Harbor, or as it's known now, Far Harbor in Maine. With the thick fog covering this area, there's an even greater sense of mystery in these waters. There's also many more islands for you to explore, and to do so, you'll have to pass through the water. Around these parts, you're gonna find way more humpback whale skeletons here. It's a graveyard for them. Once again, we also have the dead dolphins all over the place, of the same variety we find back in the Commonwealth. So whatever was killing them there is also killing them in the same way here. This time, there's something living in these waters, and it's absolutely terrifying, but it's not what you might be thinking. If we venture over off the coast of the Fringe Cove docks and head south into the water, down below we'll find a sunken ship. Nothing new here yet. There's plenty of these all over the place, but in this ship you can find a note. I can't wait to drop these damn mannequins off. The crew is starting to claim that they're hearing weird noises from the cargo. Maybe they're just playing pranks on me? Whatever, we're almost there. The note is oddly well preserved despite being underwater and torn in half. The crew is dead within the boat. Even worse, the captain is getting done dirty by this mannequin. Other mannequins are sat still in very unsettling positions, peering through the windows. Hard to know how long ago this occurred, but it's not hard to figure out how immediately I'll be leaving. Aside from the seaweed, though, just like we see in the Commonwealth, there is no life down here near Far Harbor. In my search for more information about the depths of the oceans, I was told about another location. This may be our last hope for finding life at sea. I packed my things and headed south, far south, all the way to Point Lookout. These waters around here are actually those of the Chesapeake Bay, south of Washington, D.C., following the Potomac River. We got some buoys here too, similar to what we saw back north, but these ones ring on their own. This is easily the eeriest location we'll visit, perfect for a sea monster. I called in NV Plumbing & Co. once again to clear the waters. It turns out each of these buoys is actually a marker for you. They guide you to the sunken treasures down below the water. Yet, southwest of the Calvert Mansion, into the water, we find another Chinese submarine. This one is much smaller, and we can't find a living captain inside, ghoulified or otherwise. I blew it up. Point Lookout has been a disappointment so far. There aren't any of those dolphin creatures here, nothing of the sort really, but there is one whale skeleton. Southeast of a wrecked sea tub, below one of those buoys, we can find... Wait a minute. That's not a whale, that's a T-Rex. What? It has 3 fingers. I think they usually have 2. At this point, I'm becoming delirious. This can't be real. In my search for something under the oceans, I found a goddamn T-Rex before even finding a living fish. Okay, I missed something. I made a mistake. We can actually find fish in Far Harbor. Alive, in the water. It seems to be a relevant part of the local economy and a way of survival. So, that's something. Not sure Mr. House is going to be satisfied with that, though. Given our limited findings, Mr. House gave us a small budget to go search the Pacific coast. We did find something. It was another whale near the California-Oregon border, just south of Arroyo. Blown to bits. Apparently it was dropped from the sky. Maybe it was flung from the sea by a storm or another creature. Or perhaps it's just a reference to the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. I think that's it. We're spiraling. Notice, with this whale, we're not even next to the sea here. This whale was launched. We don't get to see much of the ocean over here in Fallout 2. Unfortunately, just by wandering around, it's not really available to you. You can catch a slight peak in San Francisco. Some of the locals told me about an old oil rig far out in the ocean that was destroyed some time ago. They said it was leaking out vile pollution down to the coast of Mexico. Curious case that. Who knows what sort of damage or monstrosities that might have ended up creating. Probably nothing. Further down south in Fallout 1's location, we can see the notorious California coastline wrecked. It's a mess now. You can see debris in it and not much else. Take a look at this map here. You can see the shoreline looks quite a bit worse than what's further out. Maybe that's why we aren't finding life. The ocean is returning the waste to the land, its way of telling us it doesn't want our shit. And so the life within it stays a bit further away from the coast now, adapting to a shifting environment. Or I'm just coping. So I've returned to the aquarium in Atlantic City to finish my report for Mr. House. At least there are some fish here. But then, while writing, I peered off into one of the tanks and noticed there's something swimming around in there. It can't be. But it is. One of those dolphin things. No, two of them swimming. They're alive. They're swimming, sea creatures, mutated monsters below, held here in the aquarium. They were here the whole time. Apparently they're called dollfish. That's exceptionally stupid, but I'm just happy we finally found something. In my excitement, I ran out to the beach to go try and find one in the wild, maybe another living sea creature. I have to explore the oceans here. The water was immensely irradiated, but that wasn't going to stop me. What would stop me was the giant invisible wall preventing me from going into waters above my knees. That's it. There's nothing more to this. I collapsed into the water, my skin burning from the rad-soaked waves, and suddenly, I woke back up on the platform. Here I am, that one with all the coffins. They're all gone. Is that a mannequin?